Super Rugby AU round number 7. Couple of interesting matches at the weekend for kind of different reasons. The Waratahs having sacked their coach, are they going to be able to turn it around quick smart? And the Rebels, can they stop the juggernaut that is the Reds? These are the questions that will be answered this weekend. As always, you guys let me know your thoughts on these matches, but we'll go over the squads, some of the stats, the predictions, and then, we'll see how we go. First one, Waratahs and Brumbies. Like I mentioned, Waratahs' season's not been going good, to the point where Rob Penny was pretty much asked to leave. Last time these guys met was in round 2, when the Waratahs were away, so the 61 was for the home team, which was the Brumbies, and the 10 was for the Waratahs. That is a hiding and a half, and they will need to be way better than that, and surely it can't get any worse, I say nervously. But yeah, man, the Brumbies have been good. They just suffered that one defeat to the Reds. Otherwise, their campaign's been going relatively well, despite having to look deeply for some of the props to fill in some of the spots. But anyway, in terms of the squads, a few changes for the Tars. They've shifted Harry Johnson-Holmes back to tight head because Angus Bell is going to start at loose head, and Parecki still there at hooker. Jeremy Williams and Max Douglas is an all-new second row, with Wykes and Caird both being out injured, so that's unfortunate that they've kind of had to shift 2 of their tight 5 out. Sinclair, Tizano and Will Harris are the back 3. Tizano I've been pretty impressed with, even if he did get absolutely flattened by Taniela Tupou last week. There's no shame in that, man. The guy's a unit, but his work rate is phenomenal. He's not a huge ball carrier, but he gets through a ton of work. Jake Gordon is back, which is also a bit of good news. Remember, he was like captain for the season, got 1 game in, and then had to go off injured. So he's back. Initially, they thought he might be out for the year, but he is back, so good news. Will Harrison's there. Missed out on the Wallabies training squad. There's a lot of depth at 10 in Australia. Maybe a couple of unproven guys and a couple of experienced guys with Tamura and Jock. But Lolosio is opposite Harrison for this one. So Harrison, in terms of his personal battle with Noah, will be looking to at least try and set a high standard, but it's hard if his forward back's going backwards. Foketi and Parise are the midfielders, but they have swapped positions this week. Parise moves out to 13, Foketi comes into 12. Newsom, Ram and Maddox are the same back 3. So relatively stable lineup. The Brumbies welcome back Tom Wright. That's a good bit of news. Remember, he had a pretty phenomenal end to the year last year with the Wallabies, so great news to have him back. That does mean that Mac Hansen has had to drop to the bench, though, and that's unfortunate because he's been in equally good form as well. And Andy Muirhead's had to swap to the other wing. Tom Banks is at fullback. Kusak's back, which is also good news. Means Jerome Brown is out of the match day 23. I think Kusak looks the better of the two. He's also got a heck of a work rate and, just gets around the park. Seems to have more influence on the game anyway than Jerome Brown, which is tough. And a back row which has the likes of Rob Valtini and Pete Samu, it's not always easy to stand out because those guys tend to put in pretty good shifts. I mean, Valtini's a big old ball carrier, and Samu must have played in the backs when he was younger because he's got really good hands. Lloyd, Fainga and Slipper is the same front row. Nick Frost has come in for Swain. I don't think Swain's injured, not that I read. Neville is there as well. And Nick White, Lolosio. Lolosio, on the flip side to Will Harrison, will be wanting to absolutely stomp down the Waratahs with personally a good performance as he can get as well, because he wants to show Dave Rennie that, looking longer term after James O'Connor and Matt Tumua, who's still got a few good years left in them for sure. They're not 35-year-olds or anything. He might be the guy. But anyway, Bailey Coons was interestingly back in the 23 as well. Big time favourites. The stats for the sides, the Tars attack is looking pretty blunt. Like the attacking numbers, the amount of clean breaks they generate, defenders beaten's okay, but the amount of meters they carry, they're all pretty poor reading in comparison to everybody else. They've got a low try count. They've only scored 6 times. They've got a huge number of turnovers conceded. So it's like not only is your attack going nowhere, but you're also coughing up the pill way too much. So it's just an all-round poor showing. I could have used more strong language than that. I mean, turnovers conceded. The Tars have had 82. The Brumbies 46. So that's just to show that kind of disparity. The Brumbies, they have had issues with keeping 15 men on the field. I think they're at 3 yellow cards and 1 red at this point, but if they can keep their guys on the field, they should be looking to put the task to the sword. But you never know. Sometimes new coaches come in and absolutely shift things around. The players want to get the buy-in of the new regime. So, yeah, we'll see. The bookies don't think so. They're saying Brumbies by 20. Rugby forecast algorithm may be giving a little bit more credit to the Tars, saying only Brumbies by 9. But part of that will be because the Tars are at home. So we'll see how it goes. I wish the Tars well. Nobody likes to see a side just get absolutely hammered every week. But yeah, it's a tough ask for them with the second best team coming to town. The second game, which has got the Rebels against the Reds, I think it's a pretty important one. It's the game that tells us, are the Rebels a genuine contender, or are they just kind of an also-ran against the likes of the Brumbies and the Reds? Now, they got close. The last time they played in Brisbane, it was 26 to the Reds, 23 to the Brumbies. So, not Brumbies, Rebels. So it was close. And remember, very different styles. Like, you look at some of the numbers. The Reds have had 22 tries. The Rebels have had 5. Which was even fewer than the Waratahs. But they kick goals. Different strategy. So, more than one way to skin a cat. And the Rebels are happy to take the 3. And they will punish you. And the Reds are prone to conceding the odd penalty, aren't they? So, it'll be an interesting battle. The Rebels lineup welcomes back Uwelese. He's alongside Fa'amusili and Elof, which are 2 of the more exciting props in Aussie rugby at the moment. Cummins, Hosea, Kemeny, Hardwick, and Wells is the back row. Powell and Tamua, familiar 19 combo. They've been consistent this season. Hodge and Ili are the mid. Marika Korobeti is on one wing, and Frank Lamani, the halfback, is on the other. If you can speak to a stereotype, you'd say, well, he's Fijian, so he can probably do a job. He's probably pretty quick, but I know Lockie Anderson's injured, so that's unfortunate. And Tom Pincus is there at fullback. Lewis Holland and Gerald Skelton are on the bench. It'll be interesting to see if they come on too. For the Reds, relatively stable. Fotuaika is back from suspension, so that's good news for their scrum, which is maybe not great news for the Rebel scrum. Paengamosa and Tupou starts. That's a pretty mean-looking front row, you would have to say. Smith and Salakai Aloto are still there in the second row. Scott Young, McCrate, and Harry Wilson has returned to his number 8 jersey after spending a week riding the pine last week. McDermott and James O'Connor 9-10, and the Rebels will have to watch McDermott because he was back into his sniping form last week. He's a different style player from the likes of Joe Powell, who's more of an out-and-out distributor. But yeah, as I said, there's not any one right way to play the game. Stewart gets his chance back in the midfield. Remember, he had some issues, disciplinary stuff, but he's gotten back to 12 jerseys. So Paisami moves to 13. Pitaya fills the gap with Vunivalu being injured, so he's back into the outside backs. John Campbell moves from fullback to left wing, and right wing, and Higgiry's at 15 up from the bench. So it's a bit of a shunting ground with Vunivalu being out. Dalgunu's down to the bench. Udu's down to the bench. Angus Blythe's back in. Yeah. The Red scrum, man, they're still rocking 100% success rate. And I don't think any team other than them across Super Rugby AU or Aotearoa has those kind of numbers. So as I mentioned, the Rebels have some pretty nice props, but their rate is like 83%. So it's not all about the around the park stuff. And Fa'amusili just absolutely busting out a poor Elof as well. They'll need to knuckle down at scrum time or they will be in all kinds of trouble. But yeah, like I mentioned, the Reds, if they're too ill-disciplined, will just give the Rebels a chance to kick goals all day long. The last match, like I mentioned, was 23-21, so very close. And the bookies have got it being pretty close this time as well. Reds by 3 is what the bookies have got. And Reds by 2 is what the rugby forecast algorithm has. So yeah, should be a pretty interesting couple of games. All the best, Tars. Good luck. Although the Brumbies are not going to take the foot off the throat, that's for sure. And I do hope, kind of for the sake of the competition, that the Rebels put in a good showing and show us all that it's not just about the Brumbies and the Reds. But anyway, we will see. You guys let me know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.